There are many ethical issues that can arise when an attorney is billing a client. So an attorney may not apply a client's funds to a disputed fee. Let's say I represent someone in a family law matter and they've just decided that they're being billed too much for this particular custody case, even though the client keeps raising all kinds of issues and they just want to fight about everything. Really calling 3 times a day, wanting to go into court every week, and suddenly they get a bill and they're not happy with how high it is, even though they are just really demanding legal services almost 24/7. If the client is disputing the accuracy of a bill, then the attorney cannot, if there's a retainer that is already being held in an escrow account, the client gave us money up front, we can't just take that money and charge the client and pay ourselves, the law firm, if the client is challenging that particular bill. We can't pay ourselves. It's going to go to some type of an arbitration where someone will decide if that retainer, the upfront money the client has given us, can be applied to the legal services that were rendered. It's unethical to charge a client a higher rate than the client agreed to pay. So we can't have a client sign a fee agreement, an engagement letter, saying that the attorney's hourly rate is $200 an hour, and suddenly I decide I'm raising my rate to $250 an hour. I can't do that. If it's a contingency fee case where the client agreed that the legal fees would be 1/3 of a recovery, whether it's by verdict or by a settlement, and suddenly more money is coming in through the verdict than we ever imagined, we can't just say, you know what, we really like 40%. Can't do that. Can't do that. And we mentioned this in a prior class. Attorneys may not charge for services not rendered. You can't put something in the bill that you meant to do but you just didn't get to. So you cannot do that. We have to be very, very careful with the ethical considerations in billing the clients. Common problems that will arise in billing, and there's probably many others that will arise. Vague descriptions of work that's performed. Be very accurate in your description of what activity you're performing for that particular client's case, because when they see an item on the bill that they don't understand, then it's going to raise a lot of red flags, sometimes unwarranted, but the clients will be very suspicious then of what we're really doing. So be very descriptive when you're keeping your time that's going to go out in the client's bill. A surprise total. As I said, the clients sometimes do not realize that the many, many phone calls to the office, that takes our time. We're going to be billing them for the phone calls. Perceived poor work. And I say perceived because often clients, no matter what side of a case they're on, often have unrealistic expectations because they are by nature very biased in favor of their particular side of a case. So sometimes if they are asking us to raise a very challenging argument and we're kind of working uphill, they're going to be surprised if an attorney loses a motion in court, for example. Team churning. This is one thing you have to be careful not to do. If possible, the legal team constantly changing and taking time for new people to be brought up to speed. So I'll give you an example of that. Let's say I'm an attorney at a law firm and I am representing a client in a very complicated personal injury case. And I'm the primary person handling it, and you're my paralegal, and we are all in. We know all the details, the nuances of this case, and all of a sudden I get sick and I'm going to be out for a few months. So another attorney has to be brought up to speed. The next attorney is spending days and days just reviewing things that I already knew. And maybe you as the paralegal, you get another job, paying more money at another firm, and you leave. Another paralegal jumps in. That paralegal is spending time just reviewing and reviewing to become familiar with the case. It's really not fair for the client to be paying for attorney number 2 and paralegal number 2 to learn everything that the primary attorney and the primary paralegal already knew. So be very careful about that. When all of a sudden you're a paralegal jumping in on a case and the attorney is asking you to just bring yourself up to speed and review documents, ask the question, should I be billing for reviewing this? And make sure you get a clear answer on that. Maybe what the attorney will do is bill for a portion of your time reviewing it. But it's not fair to the client to all of a sudden be paying for somebody new to jump in and to be brought up to speed. Inter-office conferences. Let's say there's a complicated case and I'm the attorney primarily handling it, you're my paralegal, and we meet with 2 other lawyers in the firm. I'm going to say, I want to get everybody's take on this. What would you do in this situation? Or maybe, we're heading into trial and there's a settlement offer on the table. And I'm talking to 3 other attorneys. I want to get everybody else's opinion on this. Do you think this is a fair settlement offer? Are we really going to bill $200 an hour for, say, 4 attorneys involved in the meeting? We're going to bill for all of us to talk about the case? So inter-office conferences, attorneys should be very clear on who's going to bill for this particular conference. Is it all of us? That really doesn't seem fair to the client. Particular billing for soft costs. And this is, for example, including multiple charges for postage, under $1 in a bill that's over $10,000. So, be careful. You're billing, 25 cents for this photocopy, and times how much? Math errors and typographical errors. Be careful about that. It actually happens. It happens to the best of us, where all of a sudden, as I said, it looks like you're billing 2 hours for a phone call because somebody entered it in a database. You meant to say 0.2, or you did write down 0.2, and it ended up as 2.0. A bill received months after the work is completed. And sometimes that will raise a red flag to the client. I'm being billed for something and this happened 5 months ago. Why didn't I know about this 5 months ago? A bill being directed to the wrong person in a business. Sometimes attorneys are getting upset that a bill's not getting paid, and that's because it went to the wrong person in a large company and that person didn't know what to do with it, so it sat on the edge of their desk and ended up under a pile of things. Perceived padding of the bill. Make sure you're descriptive in your work so the client doesn't think just reviewed records. Well, how often are you reviewing those records? Be careful to show what you're reviewing so the client can see you're not just entering the same thing over and over again. There's a record from St. Luke's Hospital. There's a record from the physical therapist. There's a record from the dietitian. So be careful. Clients will, when they receive a high bill, be kind of nervous that maybe they're being billed repetitively for the same thing. Tasks that are arguably clerical in nature. That's something that you as the paralegal have to be particularly careful about. That there are some of the activities you're going to engage in that are not billable to the clients because it's really more under the legal assistant, legal secretary realm. Multiple entries for reviewing and revising documents. How many times are we going to review and revise a draft? If we do it 8 times, it looks like we don't know how to write. So be careful about that. Sometimes we're just trying to get that perfect language in there. And are we really going to bill the client for every time we're reviewing something just because it's not flowing right, not because we're inserting different legal arguments or citations to different cases? Block billing, we went through already. Be careful of the block billing. You don't want to just have a big chunk of time with lots of activities listed together. When we're talking about the overall financial management of a law firm, one thing that comes into play is direct profitability factors. These are factors that directly affect a law firm's profitability, how much money they're bringing in, and if they're making more money than they're paying in their expenses. And usually you're looking at over a year. Over the term of 1 year, are we bringing in more money than we are spending on our expenses? So are we making money? What's our profit? And the different factors that can affect that are the rates billed and collected. If we are billing clients at an hourly rate, obviously if we're billing at $200 an hour for attorneys and $90 an hour for paralegals, we should be bringing in more money than if we were billing $90 an hour for attorneys and $35 an hour for paralegals. Utilization of timekeepers for billable hours. And you might think, well, what does that mean? Well, in some law firms, they don't bill for a paralegal's time when they are engaged in work that really are legal services. You also might take a look at who is billing for what. So if a paralegal is performing certain tasks that take a long period of time, the bill's going to be a little lower because your hourly rate is lower than if an attorney is doing it. Leverage, smart allocation of work among employees. Who is assigned to various tasks? Is it an associate attorney who is billing at this hourly rate? Is it a paralegal billing at this hourly rate? Obviously, you as a paralegal are not going to be able to cover hearings in court, going in to actually argue in front of a judge to represent the client. So more of the internal office work is going to be on you. Are we allocating the task among people and among the different timekeepers in a smart way? Looking at expenses when we are talking about compensation expenses. So we're paying the salaries of everybody here. We're paying benefits, and we're dealing with the tax implications of what we're paying to our employees. Operating expenses. What's it cost to run this particular business? General business expenses. Do we have a mortgage to pay on our office building? Are we paying rent? What are our operating costs? What are our professional activities that the lawyers are engaging in and perhaps the paralegals engaging in that we're paying for? Bar associations, various committees, and different activities that we're engaging in. So for financial management, we have to look at how we're bringing the money in, and are we acting in a smart way, not an unethical way, just a smart way to make sure we are bringing in the profit we could be bringing in, and are we really keeping an eye on our expenses, the compensation expenses, how we're paying our people, and what it costs to run our business. Still dealing with financial management, there are also indirect profitability factors. And these are factors that they don't directly affect it, but they indirectly affect how much money a law firm will make over and above their expenses over a longer period of time. You typically look, this is more long-term planning, more than a year. So strategy, and strategy might be, okay, we have one location in downtown Easton. Do we want to open a second location in Bethlehem? And obviously there's going to be a lot more expense associated with it, because then you have to have two physical buildings, office furniture and layout, and supplies that have to go into it. But will we make more money in the long run? So obviously you're going to be investing more money over the course of a year, but 5 years down the road, could we be doubling what our profits are? The culture that is involved. Are we asking our employees to work 65 hours a week? What are we really expecting? And then people are going to leave, and then we're going to have to retrain new people, and then we won't be as profitable. Organization. Are we divided into 3 different areas: the real estate division, the litigation division, and the family law division? How are we organized? How many lawyers do we have in proportion to the paralegals and the support staff we have? Do we need to take a look at that? Is there a reward system going on? Are we giving extra bonuses to people, our employees who stay here long term? Do they feel valued here? Because there's a strain in a business when there's a lot of turnover, and a law firm is no different than that. What kind of an environment, working environment, do we have? Do we have a lot of perks for our people? And is that a waste of money, or is that profitable and keeps them happy here? So there's a lot of different things, indirect profitability factors, and those are things that usually are talking about long-term planning for the growth and health of the law firm. So that's all we have for this week's lesson. There is a very brief quiz associated with this lesson, and I will see you next week.